go into ensuring that education and good education, quality education of that is delivered. And the Honorable Wambogo is proposing that a similar model be applied to tertiary education to ensure that students then advance their education. A live broadcast brought to you by the Parliamentary Broadcasting Unit in conjunction with the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. My name is Vereso Mwanga. On behalf of the entire crew, including the sign.
Let your blessings descend upon us here assembled. Grant that we treat, consider all matters that shall come under our deliberations in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country, and of those whose interests you've committed to our charge. Amen. Honorable members, we don't seem to have the required quorum. Therefore, I order the bell to be rung for 10 minutes.
National Assembly this morning, if you are joining us, you are actually in time for live proceedings from the National Assembly, the Wednesday sitting dedicated to private members' bills and motions. As per the House regulations, a minimum number of 50 members required in order for business to be transacted in any sitting of the National Assembly, and that is per the standing orders as approved by members themselves. And once we do attain that number, then members shall proceed to discuss matters as outlined in the order business this morning. That order also includes a provision for questions and statements. Question time was reintroduced in the National Assembly late last year. And this morning, the Honorable William Kamket, Member of Parliament Tiati, will be seeking answers from the Cabinet Secretary Defense. And this regards the recruitment of officers into the Kenya Defense Forces. He seeks answers as to what informed changes in recruitment centers from sub-counties to counties, what measures the ministry has put in place to ensure fairness and transparency in recruitment, and in particular, if there is concentration or consideration for marginalized regions. And also, he seeks to know the number of officers expected to be recruited, cadre, and the exact distribution as per constituency, and even going as far as seeking to know what the numbers will look like in terms of gender. Lamu East Member of Parliament, Honorable Sharif Ali, also has a question, this one directed to the Cabinet Secretary for Transport, Infrastructure, Housing, and Urban Development. And it concerns construction of Ndau and Kizingitini seawalls, which have been under construction for the last 15 years. And really, he wants to know when that particular project will be completed. Magarini Member of Parliament, Honorable Michael Thoya Kingi, has a question directed to the Cabinet Secretary, Environment and Forestry, regarding measures put in place by the National Environment Management Authority, to ensure pollution and health hazards caused by chemical contents and emission by a salt factory known as Crystalline in Gongoni, Magarini constituency. is regulated, and his concern is the risks posed by this particular emissions and even disposal of chemical waste and the kind of effect they will have on the environment and the surrounding community. Another question to the same ministry is expected from the Member of Parliament Tharaka, the Honorable George Gitonga Murugara. It concerns water distribution and specifically the illegal water tapping, canalling, and diverting acts by residents living upstream of the main rivers in his constituency, which is Tharaka. And so these questions will first be handled by the relevant departmental committees before being directed to the relevant ministries.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair. Order number 3.
Noting that the earnings from these crops are on the decline, resulting in a record decrease in capital in export earnings, with the tea farmers fetching the lowest payments in 10 years. Concerned that such poor payments will adversely affect farmers, leading to the abandonment or neglect of tea growing and the ensuing shortage of foreign exchange inflow. Labor
will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Defense and Foreign Relations. And I see a lot of members placing their intervention. What is it, Honorable Nakuleo?
Honorable Speaker, I wish to comment slightly on the question raised by my colleague for Tertiary constituency.
How do you intend to comment on it? Because, let me hear what
Honorable Speaker, the issues raised in that question are very pertinent, especially when the criteria of employing or recruiting KDF officers is very clear in the public domain. And then, all of a sudden, the ministry decides to adopt a formula that is not well known in the public domain, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the nature of recruitment that is due to happen is bound to be skewed. Because for one, it's against the issue of devolution where each and every place must have a rightful share in the employment. The moment they say they do it at the county level, then it means they target some individuals which deny other people from marginalized communities an opportunity to be employed. Honorable Speaker, again, it would only be fair if such criteria is adopted. Then the sub-counties from marginal areas are given an opportunity to recruit service officers in the event they don't meet the professional required at the time. Otherwise, as it is, it will leave most of the marginal areas without any person who might have qualified for the criteria that is due to be adopted. And then any other...
Well, you see, I don't want you to... You're almost making a whole statement yourself. You see, this thing is going to be coming before a committee, and it's a question by private notice, so it will be fast.
Honorable Speaker,
now you have actually raised your concern. What I would be more concerned is if you are saying, as the Cabinet Secretary comes to answer this question, these are also areas that we need the question to cover. And you have done it, and you have done it already. So I don't want to give you more time than that. I'm only surprised because I see so many members interested in having a say on
just 1 minute to summarize what I intend to...
Summarize them.
Honorable Speaker, finally, it would be fair. It would be fair if in future a criteria is changed that is well known in the public domain. It's communicated earlier for public participation. But as it is, it's an affront to deny some people an opportunity for that employment.
Okay.
Thank you.
I see Honorable Ali Athman, member for Lamu East. Is it an issue also that?
Yes, Honorable Speaker. In fact, I have my question also, but before I go on to my question, Honorable Speaker, in regard to the same first question that I've been asked. Honorable Speaker, the Chair of Defense is here. I just want to state that this exercise is taking place on 28th, 29th, which is very near. So my humble request to the Chairman is to speed up this issue through the Cabinet Secretary so that at least the normal mwananchi who is at Mashinani can get this chance also, because it's not everyone who can gather at the count center. To my understanding is there are some who cannot afford to go to the count center. There are some counties have almost 12 constituencies, and it will be very difficult for them to reach to the center where has been identified by the ministry. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Maybe I go to my question or?
Now you are controlling the House, and that is not your power. Now, Honorable Pukose, I am giving a small leeway on this. It's not normal, because a question is basically going to be answered. In fact, when I hear members saying that the chair defense should speed up this thing, I think it is even beyond his power now. This is a matter that is before the House, and it is a question by private notice. So the timelines are very clear.
Honorable Speaker, thank you for this opportunity. Honorable Speaker, I think we need direction from the chair in as far as addressing this matter, because when you find that the recruitment is centralized at the county level, then and we don't know even the numbers. Recently, they did the recruitment for the prison officers, and you find that in a sub-county, only 4 people are taken, 3 ladies and 1 man. And yet you don't know what happens in other areas. So I think this is a question of transparency, and our constitution also, Honorable Speaker, demands public participation. Was there public participation in deciding that now the place to be done is at the county level? And again, Honorable Speaker, it is challenging because one of the issues will be even the time, so that if any changes can be made between now and that time, it can be put in the papers so that our people can also get these changes immediately. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Kositai.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think Honorable Kamket has raised a very pertinent issue. Mr. Speaker, whenever such changes are made, and I think when recruitment was being done at the sub-county level, it cushioned a lot of our constituents, because when it is at the sub-county level, means of transport, you can cycle, you can walk, you can take a border ride. But now that the recruitment is being done at the county headquarters, like in Wasingishu, for example, where it is being held at 64 Stadium, some of my constituents in Soy live about 70 to 80 kilometers, and the exercise starts very early in the morning. By the time they get there, they are tired, they are already hungry, and they have to go through a vigorous exercise in order to qualify, Mr. Speaker. So I think, as my colleagues have put it, Mr. Speaker, it is important that when those concerned are making such changes, they should bear in mind that we represent people. We know economic times are hard, and we need to cushion our members of the public. So even as they seek this employment, let us cushion them from the cost of transportation to the venue. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, let's see, Honorable Mbadi. You want to speak to this, Honorable Mbadi, or you wanted the next one? And I'm giving this leeway because there is a decision that I have to make now.
Thank you,
A very serious decision, because honorable members will be aware that we are actually going on a short recess tomorrow. So there are some issues that we must clarify before we go on recess, especially because this is a question by private notice. So, Honorable Mbadi.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, really, this is a question that is very urgent and important because it involves recruitment and employment of the youth. But, Mr. Speaker, 2 things that I would like the committee to consider when they meet the Cabinet Secretary. Number 1, if the Cabinet Secretary insists that the recruitment has to be done as per the advertisement, that is at the county headquarters. Are they going to refund those who come from all over the place to the county headquarters, their transport? Because really these are youth who are looking for employment, and you cannot ask them to go several kilometers in search, and then they go back home, and just a few will be picked. So they must guarantee that if they are insisting on these youths appearing for recruitment at the county headquarters, then they should be refunded the transport. And then number two, there is this element of subjectivity. Once the youth have done the running, then they go through other subjective tests, like what is called medical tests, and the medical test, the results are not made public. You cannot even vouch for it. How is the KDF going to ensure that there is objectivity and fairness to the youth, so that this idea, this culture of taking bribes can be eliminated? Because I'm convinced that the bribe taking during the recruitment of forces has not been eliminated. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, I think, honorable members, I can see too many other members interested. We can leave this one to when the CS comes to the committee. Cameron, what is it?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My concern is that the time that we have, and you did say, most likely we may go for recess. And this exercise is ongoing. It will start quickly, within a very short time. And some of us, we have marginalized communities, like El Chamus and Endorois in my constituency. What will happen if they are to go to Cabernet, the headquarters? It is a distant place, too costly, so we are worried over that. We need direction.
Now, let's leave it there. Honorable members, if ordinarily this kind of question should be responded to within 3 days. Now, starting from today, that would go to Monday. Now, I want to hear from the Chair of Defense if we can fast track this one for the CS to appear either tomorrow or Friday. Now, I want to see the availability of the chair so that we can be able to communicate and see. This is an extremely serious question. All questions are very serious, but this one is cuts across everywhere. So it is something that you can see. If I see, like now, I see about 9 other members wanting to speak to it. In fact, as you think about it, Honorable Chair, allow me to give 2 other members from different areas. I think I've given some parts of Baringo. Let's see, Isiolo, Hulufo, Honorable Hulufo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Brief ones.
Yeah, very brief one.
Processes this thing.
As you give direction, Mr. Speaker, I think one thing we need to appreciate, in the north we are experiencing torrential rains. If the recruitment continues the way it has been advertised, I can assure you many of our sub-counties will be left out because the roads leading from sub-counties to county headquarters are not passable. So I think, and the chair, through the speaker, I think we need this to be reversed. We have to go back to sub-county way, to be fair. Many of the poor children cannot also afford fare from wherever they live to county headquarters.
Honorable Lentoimaga.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, employment the only employment available now is the forces. That's where many youth rely on. It is, and actually even the grade that is allowed is minimum is deep lane. So they are really concerned that they need to be employed, and if taking to the headquarters, county headquarters will be disadvantage to our people, especially Samburu North. We have a serious problem with insecurity. Our youth will not reach there. It will only be the advantage for the youth who are in the county headquarters. So we need to reverse it as soon as possible.
Honorable Nyamai.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I would like to add my voice to this matter of youths being told to move from the sub-counties to the county, that it is costly, and we are not sure of the process also, not only for KDF, but also for prisons which we have just concluded. Honorable Speaker, there is a lot of bribery around, and that is why we are getting a kind of officers, people that do not even deserve. As long as someone can produce 300,000 shillings for their children, they get jobs. The question is, we are people who have the passion to serve this country, but they are not able to get an opportunity because their parents, their guardians are not able to afford, or they are not ready to bribe. Honorable Speaker, this is a matter that needs to be discussed openly in this House and a decision made and implemented. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Chairperson, let's hear from you. Honorable Chair.
Thank you. Just for records, first of all...
Order members. I mean, I do not think there is anything extra that we could say more than what we have said. Now, and if there are, go and raise them at the committee level. Proceed.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I was just saying, just for records, they just concluded the recruitment of the prison of SAS was done at the sub-county level. It wasn't at the county's levels. So, Mr. Speaker, you asked me to state my availability before the House goes for recess tomorrow. And I can confirm, Mr. Speaker, I'm at the service of this House. I'm available even this afternoon. But the problem, Mr. Speaker, is the availability of the ministry, of the CS. And that is, as you said, is beyond me. But if you give direction, Mr. Speaker, that they appear before the committee tomorrow morning, we can brief this House tomorrow afternoon on the decision that will have been taken. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Now, as I hear, I've heard you, the chair, and I'm about to rule on when the CS should appear before your committee. I probably also want to see the CIOC in terms of the constitutionality of this issue. What is it, the chair, CIOC?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me just say that one of the major gains that we had from our new constitution was the issue of inclusivity. And inclusivity includes getting nearer the people as much as is possible. Yes. When we now start going back to the county, we are headed back to the provincial, the old provinces. And what the executive is doing slowly is taking back the gains of this constitution. Mr. Speaker, this is an issue that must be rejected by this House. We have the responsibility of oversighting, including the implementation of the Constitution, and this is one of the things that the executive is doing that is actually eating away into the gains of this Constitution. You cannot get people back to the county, back to the region where we have left. It is actually denying people the services that we want them to get.
Now, the CS should appear before the committee tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. That should be communicated from all avenues, from Parliament, and at the same time, the chair of that specific committee oversighting the Ministry of Defense should talk to them to appear at 10 o'clock. What the members are interested to know is what are the problems, what informed. Is it issues to do with budget? Because it's a budget-making house. Then we would want to know. So let's have her appearing before your committee tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Tomorrow at 10 o'clock. So please, the members who seems to be having quite a lot of questions, you can avail yourselves tomorrow and ask those specific questions that you want. Well, I will not direct where she will be the meeting will be hosted, because that will be administrative. That will be administrative. So the next question is by the member for Lamu. Lamu East. That's an ordinary question.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Order number 8, the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 6 of 2019, second reading. Question to be put.
Order, members. Order. Order, members. Order. Order. I confirm that we have the required numbers, and I therefore put the question, which is that the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 6 of 2019, be read a second time. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Many as of a contrary opinion say nay? Nay. The nays have it.
Order number 9. The Livestock and Livestock Products Marketing Board Bill, National Assembly Bill number 2 of 2019, second reading.
What is it, Honorable Mbadi?
Mr. Speaker, this is one of the rare occasions when I get so confused in this house. Mr. Speaker, the order number 8 was putting a question at the second reading on a bill. And it has just been lost. Mr. Speaker, it's very strange that a bill has been lost in this house. The problems we had, we could have amended, Mr. Speaker. I'm wondering, Mr. Speaker, whether members were aware of what they were doing. No, but the bill cannot be bad to the extent that it's lost. I think that is very strange. And Ndindi Nyoro needs to ask himself difficult questions. I've never seen a bill getting lost in the house like this. Mr. Speaker, I don't know what Ndindi Nyoro has done to members, but I think even him, from the way he's laughing, I think he was not serious about the bill. So let me leave it at that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, no, you know, now you have raised the temperatures, which were completely unnecessary. You can see Honorable Ndindi Nyoro himself is already standing, demanding right of reply. I do not know, but what is it, Honorable Ndindi?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Whereas I respect the wisdom of this House, I don't think it is palatable for an experienced member of Parliament like Badi to say the kind of things he has said, Mr. Speaker. I have spent a lot of time and energy coming up with this bill, Mr. Speaker, and especially to help our president in the fight against corruption. But corrupt people like Badi, Mr. Speaker, have conspired and did everything possible.
Now, you see, even this is the second time. In fact, I don't want you to proceed. This is the second time, Honorable Mbadi, while I'm seated here, that you throw, a very unsubstantiated statement. It's completely out of order. In fact, I don't even need to have anybody else to ask me, to ask you to withdraw, because I have just been sitting here. I heard what Honorable Mbadi says. He simply said that he's surprised that this bill did not go through. I mean, for you to again wake up and castigate him as being corrupt by that virtue alone, I mean, it's completely out of order. Now, I am not going to allow you even to say anything other than to withdraw that particular statement, because in this House, and recently, including yesterday, you find some members throwing statements which go on record that have absolutely no basis, and so you withdraw and we will expunge that bit. In fact, we'll expunge the entire of your statement, because it doesn't make sense, really. I mean,
but Mr. Speaker, I really respect you.
Before you even have the right of anything, please withdraw and apologize.
But Mr. Speaker, Honorable Badi was involved in NYS1, Mr. Speaker.
No, Honorable Nyoro, please.
And Mr. Speaker, to call me...
Honorable Nyoro, let me tell you. Let me tell you, Honorable Ndindi Nyoro, that is not how things are done in this House. If you have an issue and you want to discuss any of your colleagues, including the one you are seated next to, you bring a substantive motion, and you should know that. Now, for you to, you are not a DCI, and you do not, that is not part of, that's not part of a debate in a House. We must follow the rules. So you will have to withdraw and apologize. So, Honorable Ndindi, you withdraw or apologize or allow me to do for the first time something that I have not done in this term, and I don't want to do that. And because we cannot have members throwing words and just deciding to, for example, imagine that we are simply going to send them away before they withdraw. You will have to withdraw, one way or the other. Even if I am to remove you from the House today, when you come back, you will still have to apologize. We cannot have two ways about it. We cannot have a House that we, throw things like that, left, right, and center. So withdraw and apologize.
Mr. Speaker, I have a lot of respect for you, and because of that, I withdraw. But I really request.
And apologize.
And apologize. But
Yes,
I request, Mr.
much.
Speaker.
Nothing else. We should be debating with a lot of decorum. The member has withdrawn and apologized, and that marks the end of it. But we shall never allow again a situation where members throw, nobody becomes popular by throwing statements in the House. It has never happened. Many people here have been here for a long time, and it does not help. So please, honorable members, let us debate with a lot of sobriety. I will not entertain any other issue on that particular one. The matter has been dispensed with. The members made their decision one way or the other, and I have simply pronounced the kind of vote they have taken. So next order. And next order had been called. So we are now resuming debate, which was interrupted on Wednesday, 9th October 2019. And we had about 10 members who had spoken, right? So I'll give an opportunity to any other member who wishes to speak. Let's start with the Honorable Chachu Ganya. Honorable Chachu Ganya, you had spoken, had you?
I have not.
Okay, proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to support this bill, the Livestock and Livestock Products Marketing Board bill. Because in particular, among other functions of this Livestock Marketing Board, to regulate marketing of livestock and livestock products. Mr. Speaker, it will collaborate with all stakeholders to ensure that livestock is well marketed, is well promoted locally and internationally. Mr. Speaker, the board will further coordinate with other stakeholders and partners to mobilize resources locally and internationally to promote this sector and to ensure good investment is done in promotion of livestock in our country. Mr. Speaker, it will further support development of livestock marketing infrastructure, such as abattoirs and other promotion-based activities that will support this sector. Mr. Speaker, in addition, among other functions, it will also promote livestock insurance scheme, which are not covered. We incur losses in billions. And once such a cover is actually regulated and by a board, by a state corporation, Mr. Speaker, I'm sure it will go very far in cushioning our livestock farmers from the vagaries of drought. Mr. Speaker, this livestock sector is a very important sector in Kenya. Even as it is, as disjointed as it is, hardly with any support from the state, it still contributes significantly to our GDP and supports millions of Kenyans living in arid and semi-arid lands of this country, Mr. Speaker, in terms of supporting their livelihood. Mr. Speaker, this is one sector that has been highly marginalized by the government of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, if you look at our other sectors of the economy, products are supported by the state. When you look at tea, when you look at coffee, when you look at pyrethrum, dairy, Mr. Speaker, there are state corporations like Dairy Board of Kenya, Pyrethrum Board of Kenya, Coffee Board of Kenya, among others, not only promoting marketing aspect of it, but even investing seriously in research. Mr. Speaker, as I wind up, I really want the members to really I support, Mr. Speaker.
Let me go to the other side. Honorable I'm trying to get a member who is top somewhere. Honorable Nyikal.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to contribute to this. Mr. Speaker, this is an extremely important bill in my view. Mr. Speaker, this bill, the intent is to regulate livestock trade and livestock product trade. Mr. Speaker, if you look at that, we are talking of a large variety of products ranging from meat carcasses, milk and milk products, skins, horns, hooves, and all that, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, in the current situation, all these products are actually scattered in various entities. For example, you have the Kenya Cooperative Creameries, which is actually operational, though may not be doing as well as we've been doing before. You have the Kenya Dairy Board, again, which is an active entity that is operational. You have the Kenya Meat Commission, not doing much, but is still in existence. You have the hides and skins dealers. Mr. Speaker, you have the Kenya Leather Development Council of Kenya, again dealing with tanneries, and you have the National Livestock and Marketing Council. Mr. Speaker, all these are various organizations that deal in the same products. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, you have a lot of scatter, a lot of fragmentation. The end result, Mr. Speaker, is that there is no synergy, and therefore the marketing of this and the promotion of all these products cannot really be effectively done. Further, Mr. Speaker, when you have so many organizations dealing with these products, you also find a lot of middlemen that are involved. And we have known in the agricultural sector as a whole, Mr. Speaker, the middlemen often seem to get the better in terms of the prices and actually the income, while the producers, the farmers themselves, do not. Mr. Speaker, it's therefore important that we have a bill that seeks to harmonize and coordinate this sector. And Mr. Speaker, this bill is attempting to do that. And that, Mr. Speaker, is one of the reasons I'm supporting this bill. Most importantly in this bill, Mr. Speaker, is actually the creation of a board. This board, Mr. Speaker, is a body corporate, which means it can be taken to task. In its functions, Mr. Speaker, it has attempted to actually harmonize this and coordinate all these organizations. Mr. Speaker, its structure, Mr. Speaker, it is intended that it will have its headquarters in Nairobi and will also have branches in the counties. This is extremely important, Mr. Speaker, because the actual production actually will take place in the counties, so that as much as we have this, which is actually a national entity under the Ministry of Livestock, it really has to function properly with the county government where the production will take place. And therefore, the bill also seeks to include some structures that will integrate it with the county structures. Mr. Speaker, I've looked at the membership of this, and Mr. Speaker, again, they have made an effort to actually harmonize. For example, the membership of this board has got a person nominated by the Council of Governors. Mr. Speaker, I think that is that it should be, because this bill, to a large extent, will serve producers at the county level. Mr. Speaker, it also have a person nominated by the private sector alliance. That is useful because, as I said earlier, Mr. Speaker, there are very many organizations that are involved in this, which I listed out. And if they are not represented in the bill, then obviously that will not, the board will not really serve the people that it will serve. Mr. Speaker, I also note that in in the board, in the memberships of the board, there's somebody, one person nominated by the Kenya Livestock Marketing Council. I think that is extremely important, and therefore, Mr. Speaker, I think there's been a good effort in this bill to actually create the coordination and harmonization structures that is required in the membership of the bid. Back to its functions, Mr. Speaker, you find that one of the functions is collaborate with the relevant agencies to promote the trade of livestock and livestock products. Exactly that is what should be done. That's what this act, this bill, when it becomes an act, should do. And also advise the national and county governments, particularly the county governments. Mr. Speaker, the county government will definitely need a lot of guidance if you are going to harmonize and try to coordinate the sale and the promotion of livestock and livestock products. And also liaise with the private sector. So again, for the same purpose. And facilitate the marketing of livestock and livestock products. The counties trying individually to market these products may not actually do much. So to that extent, Mr. Speaker, I find that this bill, its structure, the board that it creates, the functions of the board, the membership of the board is actually appropriate for the intent of the bill in what it intends to do. Further, Mr. Speaker, I find that it has structures that are appropriate for the management that is required. The financial provisions are also appropriate. I noticed that it tends to get some funding from Parliament as well. That must be because, to a large extent, this is a promotion which is actually a national government function, and therefore it should be funded by the taxpayer. And all the other sources of financing are also acceptable through the activities that it will take place. But, Mr. Speaker, as I end, there's only one thing that I think we need to look at in this bill. We'll probably propose amendments. I see no transition provisions in this bill. When it becomes an act, I do not see how this bill will actually operate. Will actually operate without affecting other acts that are already in operation. So, Mr. Speaker, we will look at that and think those will need amendments where necessary. But with that, Mr. Speaker, I support this bill. Thank you.
Top on the list, Honorable Cheruiyot Chesire.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to really stand on support this bill even before contributing, because, Mr. Speaker, sir, it's high time as a country and as a government we look into this issue dealing about livestock and its products. Mr. Speaker, sir, it has been a very sorrowful moment in this country where farmers are facing a lot of challenges when it comes to livestock products. When we mention them, the hides and the skins, the milk, particularly, Mr. Speaker, sir, even the bones, which would have actually catch some market. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is high time we look into how to assist our farmers. I want to actually talk from a point of view where things have changed right now. The farmers in Rift Valley specifically are turning from farming maize and wheat, and they are going to now livestock. Unfortunately, like parts of Baringo, Mogotio for that matter, some parts of Baringo North, Ravine for some extension, all of them are planting grass in the name of road grass so that they are able to feed their livestock. But unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, sir, nobody is actually giving a lot of attention to the output, that is the product that come from this livestock. Milk that is now being sold, Mr. Speaker, sir, in the market, our farmers sell it as low as 20 shillings per liter. When you look at the input that is put on that livestock so that the product can come out. It is too expensive. They cannot manage. It is becoming a business that is not actually forthcoming. The business of livestock products is so challenging to our farmers. It is high time the government put some measures so that these farmers can feel that whatever thing they are doing is going to help them. Mr. Speaker, sir, you know, I'm wondering if our farmers have run away from planting maize because of price and marketing, which is not nice to them. The output is high, the input is high, the output is high, but in terms of marketing and price, they don't get anything at the end of the year. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is only important that again, if they have ran from maize farming and they are running to livestock keeping, it is important that we make this business, that agri-business that they have gone into, to be productive to them, to make them have their children go to school through it. I must confess that it is only a week ago when I visited a farmer here in Kajiado, just in Rongai, Mr. Speaker, sir. And reaching there, that farmer, Mr. Speaker, sir, by the name Mr. Kurkat, was so much very unhappy with what is happening with the price of milk. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is only after they add value to that product, like making yogurt and selling mursik for that matter, is the time they can realize a bit of profit. And so, Mr. Speaker, sir, it is our duty as a country, it is our duty as a government, that actually we go, meet these farmers, make the inputs fair to them, so that they can be able to actually get outputs that can be manageable. Mr. Speaker, sir, you know, I'm even wondering, even after wanting to talk about the products, Mr. Speaker, sir, we must also know the part of health in these products, Mr. Speaker, sir. It is important for us as a nation to also partake in making sure that the meat, the products from the livestock we get in this country, from our farmers, is of good quality, Mr. Speaker, sir, without actually having these animals or livestock being given very toxic medicines, which has not been considered to be healthy for human beings. Mr. Speaker, sir, up to today, our farmers have not even known the reason as to why they should not inject or give medicine to the animals and at the same time milk them and make the milk available for people, Mr. Speaker, sir. It is our sole duty to make sure that we go to our farmers, teach them, give them awareness, and make them know that even if the animal or the livestock is theirs, they take care of their livestock, but at the end of the day, they go to the butchery to buy meat, which has not, the quality is not ascertained. So these byproducts, Mr. Speaker, sir, as you saw last time, from our supermarkets and various outlets of meat, Mr. Speaker, sir, there was such a big problem, the way the meat goes to the people. And Mr. Speaker, sir, you see sometimes even in this house, we use a lot of livestock products, Mr. Speaker, sir. And if we are not careful as legislatives, we are also the victims of these products if we don't take care of them. It is only important, Mr. Speaker, sir, that as legislators of this house, we put legislatives that is going to help our farmers and at the same time help the consumers of the products that come from our livestock. Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to say this bill is coming at the right time when our farmers are really lamenting. They are wondering what to do next, and especially when everyone is running to livestock farming. Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm one of the farm business that they have as in terms of agribusiness. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, it is timely, it is a right thing. It is only for us maybe to look at the bill well, so that if we can amend it even better to fit our people, and so that they can enjoy what they are doing and get the proceeds of their business, Mr. Speaker, sir. For those very, very many remarks, Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to continue supporting. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Very well. Honorable Sahal Ibrahim.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. At the household level, livestock plays a critical economic and social role in the lives of pastoralists. Agro-pastoralists and smallhold farm household in the case of pastoralists, livestock present as sole main means to support and sustain their livelihood. Mr. Speaker, the proposed bill, among others, will be concerned with the marketing of livestock and livestock product. This will help create a possible small and efficient sector, as well as exploit certain specific competitive advantages. Mr. Speaker, the proposed bill in Part 2 established the Livestock and Livestock Product Promotion Board, which among other functions will administrate livestock support program to promote cooperatives in the livestock industry, to provide clusterization of livestock sectors, to monitor the industry and collect dissemination information, to maintain a register of livestock farmers, to set quality guidelines to the sale of livestock and livestock product, analyze the trends in marketing and trade of live animals and animal products. Thank you, I support.
Honorable Pukose.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for allowing me to contribute in support of the Livestock and Livestock Products Marketing Board Bill, National Assembly Bill number 2 of 2019 by Honorable Bashir Abdullah. Honorable Speaker, issues to do with the marketing of the livestock and livestock products is an area that I think it is timely. There is nothing within the livestock actually that cannot be marketed, right from the meat to the skin to the hooves and even to the horns. Horns can be used for ornamental purposes, while hooves can even be used also for both ornamental, and there are some communities which also eat something closer to the hooves. Honorable Speaker, when we know that KMC has been there, but it has been a complete letdown to many of the livestock farmers, because when you take your animals to KMC, you don't know when the money will even be paid. The equipment in KMC is old-fashioned. It is outdated. The technology is no longer economical. So, Honorable Speaker, and we've known this House has on many occasions put money to KMC to try and resuscitate it, but I think it has just become a hole where money is put and it doesn't give value for money. So this bill by Honorable Bashir, once we have establishment of the livestock marketing, livestock and livestock products marketing board, I think it will go a long way to link up the counties and the national government and also link up with the farmers so that we can improve in terms of the quality of even our animals in such a way that we can compete with other countries. The other day when Honorable Bashir was...
What is it, Honorable Macau?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, Honorable Bakose is a ranking member of this House. I know he knows the politics of all parastatals and government agencies in this country. Is he in order, therefore, to talk about KMC, which sits in my constituency, and he knows very well how much money has been put there and how much money has been squandered by the same management, Mr. Speaker, whose board does not constitute any local in that factory, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sometimes we have to be very reasonable in this House. I am sure if KMC was seated in its constituency, maybe it would be reasonable to ask the government whose he serves as Jubilee. We have seen, Mr. Speaker, KDF itself, who was supposed to buy from Kenya Meat Commission, buying from private entities, from meat producing companies. Mr. Speaker, therefore, I will want him to withdraw the statement that KMC is a hole where the government is putting money, because he knows very well corruption in this country is the one which has brought KMC to its knees. If we were to put good management, a board of people who mind and care about KMC,
okay.
Mr. Speaker,
I hear you.
that commission will be alive and working and giving value for money for these taxpayers of this country.
I think you have made your statement. The only thing is I am finding it difficult to ask Honorable Bukose to withdraw anything because you look like you are both agreeing.
Yes. What he is actually saying is supporting what I'm saying. But you know, the member wanted to be seen to be speaking on behalf of KMC. Honorable Makau, I know you are the member
He was not speaking on behalf of KMC.
On behalf of his constituents.
He was speaking on behalf of his constituents, and which is perfectly in order.
Which is perfectly in order, Mr. Speaker. But we are on the same page with him that money has been pumped into KMC, but there is no value for it. The money that has been pumped there has not helped the facility, and neither has it helped the farmers who bring the meat. Honorable Speaker, I was saying that when Honorable Bashir was contributing to moving this bill, he raised an issue that Somali, which is our neighboring country, which for many years has been a failed state, are able to export their hides and skin and even their livestock to international markets because of the improvement in terms of the quality. Yet with all our systems in place, with a functional government, we are not able to do the same. So I think this, Honorable Speaker, is a very timely bill, and I hope that when we put in a board, that board should be able to look into the issues of quality, look at how we can also be able to supply to the international markets our products in terms of both the livestock products and the livestock themselves. Honorable Speaker, one of the biggest issues when you look at other areas like horticulture, you look at other agribusiness, you will find that Kenya is competing effectively. Our tea is doing very well in the international market, our coffee is doing very well, and even our flowers. But when it comes to the issue of livestock, Honorable Speaker, I think we've not done very well as a country. And this is a time for us to do soul searching. What have we done that is not correctly in place? Let's support this bill. I know in the proposed board, you have KEPSA, which is the Kenya Private Alliance Association being represented there. They have a lot of wealth in terms of experience. I think that is a good contribution. I know some people might be suggesting that why don't we put just a private alliance, maybe because maybe in future. But when the bill can be amended in future. For now, KEPSA is what we have. Why don't we allow KEPSA to play a role in terms of marketing? They have a wealth of experience in the business sector such that they can be able to contribute to this growing organization. Then later on, when we feel that you have another organization that can, this board can be able to look into those issues so that they can be able to look at the issues of even insurance for the livestock farmers and look at livestock generally in the whole country, not just in the dry areas, but countrywide. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I support.
Very well. Honorable Nakara Lodepe. And then, okay.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I join my fellow members of Parliament to support this bill. Honorable Speaker, 60% of our population depends on livestock. And Honorable Speaker, when we come up with such kind of ideas of doing marketing of our products, we'll be creating jobs for our people, from grassroots level to national level, because we have milk, skin, and other products that come from our livestock. When we do marketing, that means we also employ some people at the grassroots level who can do marketing at the grassroots level. And that one, we create jobs for our people. At the same time, we create businesses for our people, because you sell to another stakeholder, to another person like that, to the national level. Honorable Speaker, as much as we have spoken about the compression of this board, we have some things, Honorable Speaker, that we need to make sure that for us to compete according to international standards, we need to add values to our livestock products so that, Honorable Speaker, we can increase the prices of our products. Because if we don't add value, Honorable Speaker, then we cannot compete internationally. And that's why we need this board to take as their mandate to make sure that all our livestock products, we have added value so that we can get good price. Honorable Speaker, we need this board also to consider transportation and networking. You know, Honorable Speaker, our people down there at the grassroots level, some of them, they have good products, they have skins, they have milk, but to transport to the marketplace is a problem. Even within Kenya, Honorable Speaker, we have good markets for our products, but we don't take our products to where we have markets. And that's why, Honorable Speaker, we are challenging this board to make sure that they provide transportation facility to these livestock stakeholders so that they can transport their product. Honorable Speaker, formation of livestock loans so that they can buy facilities that can enable them to take their products to the good market. Honorable Speaker, another issue is about training. You know, we need this board to make sure that they are training our people so that they can get skills and knowledge on how to make their products competitive to their other products that are going around. My Honorable Speaker, as I conclude, I want to say that if we take this marketing of livestock products seriously, and we market like the way we are doing tea or coffee or wild animals, Honorable Speaker, this country will grow, and even GDP of this country will go up, because the livestock make 96% of our businesses. With those few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I support. Thank you.
Honorable Sophia Abdinur. Sophia Nur, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this chance to contribute to this very, very important bill. And on start, I want to thank Honorable Bashir Abdullahi for bringing this bill. And it's a bill that I believe that will transform the livestock farming in this country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, livestock product marketing board bill, as I said earlier, its principal objective is to streamline the marketing of livestock and livestock products in this country, Mr. Speaker. This is in line with the fact that although livestock industry is a very important source of income for many households in Kenya, its regulation is carried out, Mr. Speaker, by different entities. And many entities, Mr. Speaker, leading to duplication of work and competition among different entities in this country. And that is a waste of resources, Mr. Speaker, because if we have many entities that are conflicting the interest and are competing and are duplicating work, then it is going to be waste of resources. And I want to again say, Mr. Bashir, Honorable Bashir, when he brought this bill, it is to streamline. And because of that, of duplication and competition, this has resulted into poor service delivery. Thus, Mr. Speaker, making the main beneficiary of this industry the middlemen, Mr. Speaker, instead of the livestock farmers. The livestock farmers are losing in a big way, Mr. Speaker, because you know, they do not have a promotion body. A body that can advise, that can coordinate, that can strategize, and that can put system in place so that they will know today there is a market demand somewhere and they can take the animals. Mr. Speaker, the middleman in this country have benefited so much. And most of the, Mr. Speaker, the livestock farmers are illiterate. They are not able to get to. They do not have that capacity of understanding that there is international market somewhere. So this body, Mr. Speaker, will be a body that now will establish structures, a body that will be able to deal with the concerns in the market, Mr. Speaker. And because of that, the livestock farmers will be able to gain and will transform this country. And this country will benefit in a big way foreign exchange, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this body will be able to promote the trade industry, Mr. Speaker, of livestock and livestock products. And this will include, Mr. Speaker, negotiating, looking for market outside, cooperation and coordination of the livestock trade, Mr. Speaker, in this country and beyond this country. They will be able, Mr. Speaker, to look for markets outside this country. We know there are many markets. We know whenever we go outside, there are countries like Middle East. Recently I was in Morocco, and the Moroccan people told me, Mr. Speaker, we are not able to meet the demands of meat in our country. And they were asking, will there be any win of resources and markets that are outside there, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, again, this body will be able to advise our county government and our national government in terms of market, relations of market and marketing outside this country. Mr. Speaker, we have huge potential out there whereby this body will be able to enter relationship with even private sectors, Mr. Speaker. They will be able to, when put in place, now the issue of duplication and competition among entities will be reduced, Mr. Speaker, and will be limited. And thus, now we'll have, the people who will benefit from the livestock farming now will be the farmer himself, Mr. Speaker, because the farmer will get a place where they can go and talk to the people and negotiate with the farmers, and that can help them, Mr. Speaker. Again, this body will be able to mobilize resources, not only within this country, human resource and financial resource, capacity building, Mr. Speaker. This body will be able to reach to the farmers, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this body again will collaborate with research institution, Mr. Speaker, so that they can conduct proper studies and research that will design to promote value addition, Mr. Speaker. We have a lot of small value addition here and there. I've been to several livestock farmers in this country. They are doing their bit in a small way, but if you go to other countries, you will find huge, and with proper infrastructure, Mr. Speaker, of livestock and farmers, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this body, Mr. Speaker, will be able to facilitate marketing of livestock and livestock product. Mr. Speaker, they will also be able to develop skills and adapt appropriate value addition, just the way I said before, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, and finally, this body will be able to support proper infrastructure development, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if you look at what Botswana is doing in terms of livestock promotion, Mr. Speaker, it is the second foreign exchange earner for Botswana. Livestock and livestock products, Mr. Speaker. It is a country that have developed its livestock farmers, and you can see they are earning. It is the second, Mr. Speaker. I know if we do it. I have been to Somaliland, Mr. Speaker, and I went to the port of Berbera when they were transporting livestock from the port of Berbera. And I was shocked, the kind of speaker. And you know, for Somaliland, many years, they were not getting foreign aid. And they were only using the money they were getting from the livestock exportation, Mr. Speaker. And because of that, we as a country can make more than what Somaliland is making. With those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I am pleading with this House, because it is going to transform our country in a big way. I'm pleading with this House that we support this bill so that we as farmers, personally I'm a farmer, and being a farmer, we are today happy that we are seeing light at the end of the tunnel. With those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I support. Thank you so much.
Very well. So coming to my left, I see many are on my right, so probably I'll give therefore Honorable Macau.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this chance. Mr. Speaker, first of all, I need to start by saying, yes, this country needs its livestock products well marketed. But Mr. Speaker, I want to remind this House, Botswana had its meat commission, commissioned in 1965, Mr. Speaker. And they came to Kenya to learn about meat processing, meat products, quality of meat. And Mr. Speaker, today, Botswana is the leading exporter of beef and animal products. Mr. Speaker, the problem we have in this country is one. We establish new authorities, and we ignore the existing agencies, Mr. Speaker, for that. Mr. Speaker, if you remember very well, I'll take this House back to the Pyrethrm board of this country. Mr. Speaker, a few years ago, Kenya used to be the lead exporter and producer of pyrethrum. Today, pyrethrum and pyrethrum board are history. They are gone. They are dead. Mr. Speaker, even the coffee, even the cotton of this country is all dead. But we had legislation in this House introducing new authorities. Mr. Speaker, let me give a case for an example. Kenya Meat Commission. Mr. Speaker, I sympathize, I pity. Kenya Meat Commission is one of the oldest commissions in this country. Mr. Speaker, as we grew up, Kenya Meat was the creme de la creme of companies that anybody in this country could have wanted to work. The only near competitor was Kenya KCC. Mr. Speaker, when I look at this bill, I have a lot of respect for the mover of the motion. But Mr. Speaker, can we ask ourselves a question? If we introduce a new authority that is going to market the products of livestock, where are we putting Kenya Meat Commission? Mr. Speaker, we've had CSS who have come in this government, and instead of reviving KMC, they run parallel meat companies that, as I spoke earlier, Mr. Speaker, are the ones who are supplying beef. For example, our KDF. Mr. Speaker, our national youth, none of those government agencies is buying meat from Kenya Meat Commission. Mr. Speaker, the other day when we had the NYS scandal, you see in NYS, Mr. Speaker, I will say, let this bill be introduced to be a part of Kenya Meat's mandate, so that Kenya Meat, Mr. Speaker, can be seen to be dispensing the rights and making use of its mandate as an agency that this country had it as a pilot scheme in this country, Mr. Speaker, which was very successful. Mr. Speaker, government in, government out have had many boards in in Kenya Meat Commission. And what they did is just to put money there, and that meat, Mr. Speaker, is even planned before it lands at Kenya Meat Commission. So I have issues with members who say Kenya Meat is a hole where we just put money. I am asking these board members, these CEOs who are posted at KMC, isn't there a government, isn't there an agency that can arrest and recover the monies that have been stolen from KMC? Mr. Speaker, if we were serious, Kenya Meat Commission will be one of the blue chip companies for this country. I agree, the pastoral communities I know they are the main suppliers of meat at Kenya Meat Commission. But Mr. Speaker, we cannot start now introducing other authorities that will start competing with Kenya Meat Commission. As much as you're talking about relevance, it is true. We can marry this bill to be included in the mandate of Kenya Meat Commission so that we can empower, can give Kenya meat to chew, rather than just giving the commissioners and the board to run the board and they cannot compete. Mr. Speaker, the hides and skins which are produced from Kenya Meat Commission cannot compete internationally. They are importing meat from Botswana. So, Mr. Speaker, we should address where did the rain start beating us. We cannot keep on killing our own, yet we introduce other authorities. Mr. Speaker, we are here saying, oh, even I have seen from Muzamizigo, we do what? Mr. Speaker, SRC is saying members of parliament should not be paid, yet we are the same parliament who are introducing other authorities to be included in salaries and commissions. Unnecessary boards. Mr. Speaker, you cannot keep on increasing authorities that are tying the exchequer money. Mr. Speaker, with a lot of respect, Honorable Bashir, I request this House, we consider and anchor this bill to KMC's mandate. Otherwise, Mr. Speaker, I support the bill to be anchored on KMC, but on its own, Mr. Speaker, I oppose it with totality. Thank you.
Honorable Eshomo.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika. Mheshimiwa Spika, ninashukuru kuunga mkono hii taarifa. Mheshimiwa Spika, mambo ya wanyama wetu iko na mambo mingi. Mr. Speaker, ya wanyama niko kwa committee ya agriculture na Mr. Speaker, kila kati huwa tunajiuliza mambo ya wanyama yetu, wafugaji ni kama hawana njia yoyote ya kufaidika kwa hii wanyama yao. Kwa sababu Mr. Speaker, maana ya kukosa kufaidika, hawana market yoyote ili inaweza kupelekwa livestock kwenda kuuza. Hawana market yoyote hata ya kuchinja hiyo slot ya kuchinja hiyo wanyama. Mr. Speaker, nafikiria katika Kenya mzima hakuna mtu anaweza kula chakula bila nyama. Ikiwa na nyama ndio unasikia umekula chakula. Na wale wanafuga wanyama, Mr. Speaker, huwa wanaumia sana kwa sababu akati ya ukame hizo livestock unakuta sote zinakufa kwa sababu pia hakuna pahali ya kuhusia. Akati mvua inanyesha sianze kupata nguvu, wanakosa pahali za kuhusia. Mr. Speaker, ingekuwa muhimu nikiunga
economy in general. The current situation where when there is droughts, livestock die because of the droughts. When there are floods like now, nobody and no institution is of help, will come to an end by the formation of this board, Mr. Speaker. This board, among other things, will regulate information and will ensure that there is a center where information in terms of prices, in terms of diseases, in terms of movement of life.
The Honorable Member for Chepalungu. 2 minutes, a very short time, the Honorable Kolosh. The member for Chepalungu.
Thank you, Speaker, and Honorable Member Bashir for contributing the 2 minutes to me. Right from the onset, Honorable Speaker, livestock is the most valuable asset of many households in Kenya, and especially the constituency that I represent, Honorable Speaker. There is less attention from the government to all the livestock pastoralists in this country. It is high time for the government to inject substantial amount to this livestock sector, because it is the livelihoods of Kenyans It is the one that is helping the social economy empowerment in our country. Mr. Speaker, 80% of the population consume meat, and there is no delicacy or food menu in Kenya if you don't see the nyama choma, that is the roasted meat. It is very important that we have this bill go through, and I thank the Honorable Member Bashir for coming up with this marketing of livestock and livestock products. Honorable Member of Mafoko, Mr. Honorable Macau, this bill is going to assist the Kenya Meat Commission to market their products. Yes. They are the ones who have messed up with this livestock industry. So this bill, Honorable Macau, you should be the first one supporting this. It will help you to market the products, both milk, hides, and meat. So you need to support and not oppose this bill, Honorable Macau. Thank you, Honorable Bashir, for your donation. Thank you.
The mover now has 6 minutes to wind. The mover. You had contributed to, you had indicated that you have only 3 members you wanted to donate your time to, and that has happened. So now you have 6 minutes to wind down.
Okay. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I'm sure there's a lot of interest from members. They're still keeping on nagging, say that I donate some one minute to 2 of them. I'm not sure if I can indulge you to give them 1 minute each, so that I remain with at least 3 minutes.
Proceed, the Honorable Bashir.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Speaker. And I want to thank and I want to congratulate and thank the members who have made very good contributions so far. I've taken note of the many concerns, but I want to urge this House that this livestock marketing board bill will assist the livestock farmers across the country. And it's not something that will only be pertaining to a specific region. As we know, every household in Kenya has some livestock. This bill will see through livestock farmers' products to be marketed both locally and internationally. The concerns of various members that have raised, one of them being the Kenya Meat Commission, is valid. We know that the greatest beneficiary of this bill will actually be the Kenya Meat Commission, because we will strengthen to ensure that Kenya Meat Commission's products are bought locally and internationally through this board. As we speak right now, there are a lot of issues with the KMC, so we believe that with this board, those kind of things will be past tense. The reason why we came up with this bill is the fact that since independence, we have never had a livestock promotions bill or board, for that matter. Other sectors, we have the tea board of Kenya, coffee board of Kenya, bilateral board of Kenya, but the livestock sector has remained neglected over the years. And this is what this parliament is trying to make it right, so that livestock farmers are not left behind. Remember, we have a huge market out there, international market. We are unable to tap simply because there are no standards, there are no regulations, and every subsector within livestock operates on its own without guidance, without regulations, and without systems being in place. So I believe that once we pass through this bill and see to it that it sees the light of day, then issues concerning the livestock subsector will greatly benefit Kenyans in large numbers. Right now, we are seeing livestock dying because of rainfall. They die when there's rain, they die when there's drought. Which body is talking about the grievances or the pathetic situations that the farmers are in, or livestock farmers are in? So I want to urge this House and thank members for all their contributions and ensure that let us have this board in place, and therefore I beg to reply. Thank you.
Very well, honorable members. For good reason, I'll direct that the next necessary steps will be taken in regard to this motion when the matter is...
Transition from secondary education to tertiary education.
Honorable members, this is a motion by the Honorable John Munene Wambugu. He had already moved it and it had been seconded. The Honorable Ali Athman had contributed, together with the Honorable Cheriot Chesire and the Honorable Kitayama Maisori. So it is now open for us to proceed with. And the first member with interest on my board here is the Honorable Kanyithia, member for Tigania West.
Yes. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to this very important motion. Honorable Speaker, I would like to start by thanking the Honorable John Munene Wambugu for bringing this motion. Honorable Speaker, as a country, we are in a stage where we are losing a great number of our youth, or a large proportion of our youth, who do not transit to the tertiary education levels. The reason being that they fail at Form 4 level. And when they fail at Form 4 level, then they are not able to proceed either to secondary, to the middle level colleges or to the universities. Honorable Speaker, it is important to note that the government has made some effort, which are laudable, in coming up with TTIs, or technical training institutes, across the country, whereby in every sub-county we are going to have a TTI. The moment we have these TTIs, we should also be looking at the other side, the demand side of the technocrats that we are going to, or the technicians that are going to produce on the other end. Many of our youth are not very much interested in joining the TTIs. And we, as members of parliament and leaders of this country, should be asking ourselves, why are the youth not very keen to join TTIs or to join middle level colleges? First of all, Honorable Speaker, if we look at the traditional colleges like MTCs and the teacher training colleges, and also the other colleges that train the technicians, we realize that there are serious restrictions and the method that is used to bring them in or to usher them in are very restrictive. So most of the youth they are filtered out. On the other hand, when it comes to TTIs, we have a problem of job absorption or problem of being absorbed in the job market. We know for sure as a country, at the stage of development, it is a point in time that we need more of technicians than managers. But this country has focused a lot more in university education, and I would like to launch the reforms that have gone by in the recent past on the university education. Because university education has been in the past viewed as the only way to have people succeed in life. It is, you must not have a degree to succeed in life, because technicians also are required. And at the stage of development, we need more of technicians than probably the managers who are trained at the university level. So what we are doing as a country is discharging a large proportion of labor force who do not get jobs. And therefore, it forces the Kenyans to make choices at which colleges do they go to. In other words, we need to make it attractive for the technicians to join the technical training institutes. And how do we make it attractive? We need to have a structured absorption mechanism whereby the technicians can also be structured or stratified in levels where they are going to be able to join the various job markets in terms of construction. And we need to restrict ourselves, Honorable Speaker, in the projects that we are implementing as a country and as a government, and even in the private sector, to hiring our own people. Honorable Speaker, we have projects happening in this country, and they're taken up by foreigners, which is okay, based on our laws.
and therefore they hire a lot of people from outside this country. And that gives us problems because we lack absorption of our own people. And that dissuades the youth from getting job opportunities. That is the reason why we are not able to absorb as much of the youth as it is possible, and therefore we are not able to train this youth accordingly. Honourable Speaker, coming back to technical training, I would like to, as a country, for us to consider improving the skills of our youth once we take them through the TTIs or the technical training institutes. I know of countries like Australia who require skilled labor force or skilled technicians to do work in their countries. They need carpenters, they need masons, they need plumbers, they need all sorts of technical training, technically trained institutes, people. But these technicians must pass through a level of, they must pass through some kind of assessment so that they qualify to fit for the job market in the terms of the skills that they need. We have not put that in place as a country. And therefore, for us to be able to sell our labor force outside the boundaries of Kenya, and therefore encourage the youth to be absorbed in other countries, we must create that level of technical training, which is an advanced level of technical training, which could also be specific to the needs and policies of a given country. On the other hand, Honourable Speaker, we have also not been able to absorb our youth after technical training because of the expansion level at which the economy is expanding. Our economy is not growing at the speed it should have been growing. If you look at the Vision 2030, at this point in time, our economy should be growing at 10% per annum, but we are doing around 5.2% per annum. The question should be, where did we go wrong and what has happened? Why haven't we grown at that particular level? Then we go back to ask ourselves, what have we been doing as a people and as a country, Honourable Speaker, so that our economy has not really grown? We realize that the greater majority of those people who could contribute to the economic development of this country are not actively involved in productive growth of this economy. The reason being that they do not have the requisite supply levels of resources and also the recognition that the government gives. I want to mention one or two examples, one being in the agricultural sector where I have done most of my work in my life, and I know that is a sector we should have supported long ago to grow this economy. I know, Honourable Speaker, that many countries have grown through agriculture because they looked at it and decided that they are going to improve the agricultural system through various forms of transformation, and therefore they create jobs. Even us, as a country, we cannot create jobs through manufacturing, which can only do 13% so far, Honourable Speaker. Manufacturing has never been able to bypass the 13% contribution to GDP, while agriculture can sometimes go to beyond 50%. We can have 30% direct contribution by agriculture and 27% through related activities. If we look at this particular sector, where most of our people are aged, and we improved on the possibilities of creating jobs through the organizing and the various forms of value addition, we would be able to have most of the technicians absorbed. And that is one of the ways in which we can be able to encourage the youth to join training institutions so that they can be able to move to the second level, to absorb most of the youth. Honourable Speaker, when it comes to the actual training, we need to ask ourselves, what exactly do we train our youth in these institutions? And how absorbable or how much are these trainings or other particular factor, and therefore we need to structure out our education. Coming back to restructuring the universities, Honourable Speaker, we need to have the middle level training as much as we have the degree level training. Our universities ought to open up a lot more of the secondary, the technical level training, so that we can have most of the youth joining these universities and getting the degree, the certificates and diplomas. Besides getting the certificates and diplomas, we should have a transition mechanism, Honourable Speaker, whereby somebody who did not necessarily pass very well at Form 4 could pass through a technical training institute and get a level of grading that could qualify them to universities. I know this happens, but not in all universities. We should also be able to link the TTIs with the universities in the sense that the high performers within the TTIs should be able to be accorded positions within the universities so that they can be able to do university education and get degrees.
I know most of the youth, Honorable Speaker, would like to have degrees. And how can we facilitate those who dropped out in Form 4 to get degrees? The only way is to pass them through the middle level colleges and have a mechanism of transition from the middle level colleges through the universities to get their degrees. I know of people in this country, Honorable Speaker, who have passed through the long route, and they have ended up being very seasoned and very productive in the development of the country, because in the sense that we need to ask ourselves, how many possibilities are we creating in terms of training so that we may be able to absorb the populations of youth that we discharge from the secondary school level into the middle level training so that they can be able to be absorbed in the job market. I thank you, Honorable Speaker, as I support.
The Honorable Oundo.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity to contribute to this timely motion that is before us today. Honorable Speaker, each year the country registers a large number of students in the Form 4 exams. As many of us are aware, university. Many of them go to universities that probably could not qualify to be universities in a serious system, but since we have created them, we must sustain them in one way or another. It leaves a very large chunk of our students, young men and women, who are unable to progress in life since their mentality has been said that if you don't go to university, you are branded a failure. Our society is such structured that every parent would wish to sit in a social gathering, be it in a chama, be it in church group, be it in a place, a social place, and boast how their children are at the university. This mindset gets inculcated in these young people to an extent that the moment the student does not qualify to go to university, he is crushed psychologically because he's seen to have failed the exam. Many of us who work in our constituencies, who interact with the people, many times the parent will come and tell you, sorry, my child failed the exams. When you ask him, or how, what do you mean the child failed exams? My child did not qualify to go to university. The first starting point, Honorable Speaker, is to talk to our parents, talk to us, myself included, to have this positive mind that ideally no child fails exams. No student fails exams. It's only that one gets more marks than the other. The one who has gotten low marks does not mean that student has failed. Because in any case, you can never all of you get equal marks, then that beats the essence of a competition. So, Honorable Speaker, there is therefore need to find a mechanism of equipping these students who do not go to university to get a process where they can learn skills that will be useful in life. Even if they want to be whatever form they want, skills, post-secondary skills, are critically important for the development of this society, for the advancement of this society. It's therefore important that the government must put into place mechanisms to ensure we have got 100% transition to various cadres of training institutions post-secondary school. Honorable Speaker, there are other students likewise who sit for Class 8 exams, but for some strange reason or the other, do not wish to proceed to secondary because they do not think they have got the motivation to go through a rigorous secondary school education. It's therefore important that as Parliament, supporting the government, we must put into place mechanisms that will take these young boys and girls to the next level of training. Specifically, Honorable Speaker, I'm aware, or all of us are aware, that vocational training centers are devolved functions managed by the county governments. However, the investment by the county governments for the last 8 years in these vocational training centers that were taken off from the national government, by then they were called Village Polytechnic, has been minimal. For example, in my county of Busia, there hasn't been any improvement in any of the 8 institutions that were village polytechnics since they were handed over to the county government. They remained dilapidated, they remain inadequately staffed, they do not have training equipment, and that stigma that village polytechnics remain village polytechnics only absorb class 8 failures or those who did not go to school has really damaged or has minimized or has limited the expansion of this technical training institute. So it is incumbent upon the county governments to invest heavily in modernizing these polytechnics or vocational training centers to enable students to have a positive mindset and attend these training institutes. Secondly, Honorable Speaker, we are aware that there's a government policy that in each constituency there must be a technical training institute. Again, the challenge has come that many of our young people, those who do not qualify, as I've said earlier, to join university, naturally end up being demoralized. Motivating them to join these institutions has been a Herculean task. We keep on preaching this message wherever we go. National leaders, wherever they go, they keep on preaching this message. We have help that provides 40,000. We have government capitation of around 30,000. So with that kind of funding, it is adequate to sustain the student in class for a whole academic year. For the 2.5, for the 2 years for certificate, and 3 years for diploma, I want to urge the young people all over Kenya, please seize this opportunity so that we equip yourselves with the skills to enable you to sustain your life after secondary school. Refusing to join, feeling that they are not worthy your time, that they are reserved for people who do not make it to university, so they are condemned for failures, is a recipe to generally undermine your life in the coming years. I also want to urge the government that the outreach program should be seriously done, because many of the students do not understand, many of the students do not know, and I want to urge the principals and the career masters in secondary schools to take this opportunity to preach the gospel to the students who are about to sit for their Form 4 exams, those who are about to sit for their Class 8 exams, that the career choices in this country are boundless. The opportunities are there. It's only that things have changed. The days of the white-collar jobs, the days that after getting your Form 4 certificate, you are entitled to go get a white-collar job, you put on a tie, a suit, and you sit on a swinging chair with a telephone headset on your desk, are all those dreams we must live out of dreamland and come to hit reality. As I conclude, Honorable Speaker, I want the Ministry of Education to seriously have a look at the university, the management of the universities. Have a look at the courses being offered by the universities. Have a look at how they administer training. It beats logic for a university to offer a certificate course. It beats logic for a university to offer a diploma courses. Universities should focus on degree courses and post-degree courses and research and dissemination of information. Packing classrooms, packing spaces, getting so spread thinly to compete with the TVET and technical and other vocational training centers, offering certificates in animal production, offering certificate in mechanical automotive engineering, is really to miss the point of the essence of universities. I also want to ask the universities to get out of these courses that are not attracting applications. Courses that do not support Vision 2030, courses that do not support Big Four agenda. Get out of those ones so that we free space, we free facilities to focus on training that support our Big Four agenda, focus on training that support manufacturing, because this country is not going to expand. This country is not going to grow unless we invest in manufacturing, we invest in value addition, we invest in things that create employment, we invest in ventures that actually create money in the economy. I have nothing against some courses, some art-based courses or humanity-based courses, but in a society, it gets to a point at one point or another, you have to make a decision to solve a problem once and for all then go back to doing other things. With those few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I support the motion, and I hope after we are done through the motion, I would ask my colleague to probably put it even in a kind of a bill so that they can debate and enact it in this House. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well spoken, the Honorable Dr. Undo. You have spoken like a true ambassador for the Department of Vocational Training. And if I encounter the good PS there, Dr. Desai, I will ask him to consult with you so that you can share with him just what you have said here. Because the attitude that we have towards vocational training in this country is not the correct one. We should encourage it the way you have done. We shall have contribution from the Honorable Kipyegon, member for Emurua Dikir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That is me. Mr. Speaker, thank you for also allowing me this opportunity to make contributions on this particular motion. Mr. Speaker, like I said before, Mr. Speaker, that such kind of motions need to come in form of amendments or bills that will, after debating here and passing it here, gets to be enacted and work as a law. So, Speaker, you know, these are just issues that affect the whole country, and it is quite important that such a kind of motion is enacted as a law that will make the government of Kenya to implement it, like it did with the secondary 100% transition of secondary, primary students to secondary. Mr. Speaker, for many of us who've been visiting other countries, we normally see in those countries a situation where education has been prioritized, say that it is rare to find any person who has not seen the inside of a university. In fact, 3/4 of the population, mostly in Europe, even in East Europe and Americas, almost 3/4 of the population have gone to university. And it doesn't matter. It is regardless of whether after pursuing those university education, you get employed or not. It is important that people go through this particular kind of education. Mr. Speaker, I was also in a country where almost everybody has master's degree, including even the shoe shiners, including the painters, including the furniture fundis. These are people who have gone through university education. And when they do their work, they do it perfectly. Because when you find a shoe shiner who has a degree or a master's degree, they do it so perfect. University does. There will be so many graduates, and therefore there will be so many idlers. I don't understand that concept, Mr. Speaker. We need to open up our education system in our country. We need an educated republic. We need people who have gone through serious education. Mr. Speaker, employment opportunities in this country are many. There's so many. You find so many people nowadays working. That is why we normally have quacks. People who are called quacks, Mr. Speaker, especially on medicine dockets or departments. These are people who maybe for a long time have been yearning to be doctors, but because they cannot have that opportunity either in KMTCs or in universities to study, they end up treating people without even that basic education. Mr. Speaker, that shows you there are so many people in this country who, if they are given that opportunity to go to school, they will do marvelous things in this country. We've seen serious business people who have never gone to school, and they are very serious business people. Had they gotten that small basic education, or even diploma education, or degree education, we will be having serious business people in the Republic. Mr. Speaker, I therefore wish to support this particular motion, that we need to have 100% transition to tertiary colleges. And in future, I also hope that we're going to have 100% transition to universities, so that anybody who goes through a primary education must go through university, secondary education, and then eventually must go through diploma, tertiary college education and the university. Mr. Speaker, even those who never qualified directly to join universities, Mr. Speaker, they can even qualify to do certificates and eventually qualify to do diploma and eventually qualify to do higher national diploma, and eventually qualify to do degree. So there should be in our country, a situation where anybody who has gone to school must go through all those relevant stages in education so that we can have a nation of learners. Mr. Speaker, this 100% transition of primary learners to secondary learners, Mr. Speaker, is going to fill our secondary schools. But immediately after that, where will these pupils go? Where will these students go? And this motion is very important. I wish to urge the member who actually introduced this particular motion to ensure that it is made a bill. It is made a law so that we make it compulsory and we have money. Mr. Speaker, sometimes I wonder, we cry when we touch on matters of health and matters of education. You know, those are very fundamental parts of human life, Mr. Speaker. Health and education are very important. And it is prudent upon us as members of parliament to ensure that when we are doing our budgets, we put a lot of money on these two fundamental issues, education and health. Because an educated nation is a bright nation, is a nation that makes people civil, that makes people look upright. And a healthy nation, Mr. Speaker, makes people work 24 hours. Mr. Speaker, so I believe that if our House of Representatives, Parliament, the National Assembly and the Senate, and even the county assemblies, ensure that most of their budgets are allocated to education, actually our children will attain education that will help them in the future. Mr. Speaker, I read in some article sometimes back, Mr. Speaker, a situation where Chinese government, the China Republic, changed over 600 universities into colleges. You know, Mr. Speaker, the reason why they decided to change the universities into colleges is that most of the learners, especially these ones who go through university education, they learn a lot of theories. When they come out, they don't know nothing. They don't know many things. But people who go through college education, diploma, higher national diploma, certificate, these are real trained people towards or geared towards particular specialization. Like even in our country, Mr. Speaker, if you go to most of the hospitals, those students who have gone through diploma education are mostly employed there than even those who have done degree in nursing or degree in whatever. So that shows you our college education is more superior than these theories we normally gain or attain from the universities. So this idea of having 100% transition to colleges, Mr. Speaker, is going to go a long way in helping our population in attaining the required skills that will help move this country forward, both in medicine, both in like electricity and all that. Mr. Speaker, I had an opportunity while serving as a member of parliament in the last parliament, Mr. Speaker, and you know my constituency is one of the most marginalized, was one of the most marginalized in the Republic. And when we got in our constituency, Mr. Speaker, the only highest level of learning in our constituency was high school. We never had even a driving school, even a simple college that offers even a computer certificate in computer. And I made it as a norm in my constituency that we need to have many learners join colleges, especially colleges, both either TTIs or polytechnics, national polytechnics, and so many others, because I thought we never had people of such skills in my constituency. Mr. Speaker, during that tenure, Mr. Speaker, I asked my NGCDF committee to allocate some funds to building a Kenya Medical Training College. Mr. Speaker, I'm grateful. Within 3 years, we managed to build a serious Kenya Medical Training College, which we launched a month ago, Mr. Speaker, and it's done. And with this introduction, if this was to be made a law, Mr. Speaker, my constituents are going to benefit mostly in learning these skills that can help them in our institutions, or I mean in our areas. So, Mr. Speaker, I wish to state clearly that I support, and I will wish to urge the member concerned not to urge the government, but to bring it as a bill or an amendment to a bill that exists so that we can make it a law and have our population have that 100% transition to colleges. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Congratulations, Honorable Kipyegon, the member for Emurua, that you actually put your money where your mouth is, and you have done well for your people by setting up the medical training college and the TTI. I think that is what leadership is about. We shall have the Honorable, what is out of order, the Honorable Kemot?
Mr. Speaker, there is no point, there is nothing which is out of order. Mr. Speaker, there is a very high demand of interest in this particular debate, Mr. Speaker. And because of time, I was proposing that if we can be able to limit time for 5 minutes for debate in this particular motion, Mr. Speaker, so that many members can make contribution as much as possible.
Very well, the Honorable Kemose, your intentions are noble, but you have run foul of the rules, your very own rules. The rules require that when you want to make a request like the one you have made, it should be made at the very beginning before debate begins. Now the hands of the Speaker are tied, and it is up to you members now to know that there's a lot of interest in this, to allow others to speak with and limit what you want to say, so that the next member can also have an opportunity to speak. But I hear you, but my hands are tied by the rules of the House. The Honorable Ombaka, member for Siaya.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. First of all, I want to appreciate the member who has brought this bill, Mheshimiwa Munene, John Munene. 100% transition is in line with the right of education to everybody in this country. Everybody has a right to education. Everybody has a right to access education, retention, and completion of education. And so this is a move towards the right direction. I do believe that when you talk of 100% transition, we need to start much earlier and then secondary to university. That means that there will be no dropout cases, as we have always seen. Students normally drop out of school because they lack of school fees, because maybe they are not motivated enough to continue. Early marriage is always a problem to women or young girls. And when we insist on 100% transition, we shall save the lives of those who drop out of school too early. And so I can see a situation where dropping out of school is going to be minimized, or it will never be there at all, because this particular bill coming into a law will ensure that everybody transits to the next level. And that's the best part of this. Everybody will be able to access education at every level, and that they will be useful to society. A nation that does not go to school is a nation that is behind development. And so this is a way in which Kenya is going to see that education works and everybody enjoys the benefits of education. I really do appreciate that. The challenge I see, however, is that if we put 100% transition as a compulsory thing, we also need to do other things to make it work 100%. We must make sure that we have technical schools built on time, because certain constituencies do have technical colleges. They have already built them, they're already functioning, and students are in classes. Some constituencies still are looking for land, they still have got no money, they still have not put up this. We need to put timelines. When are we going to have technical colleges? When are we going to have medical colleges, so that our students transiting from secondary schools will have access to these colleges? I think that, to me, is very important, that we must put in place colleges on time, and we must have timelines so that every child in every constituency will have access to technical colleges to get those education or skills that are required. The second part that we need to ensure so that 100% transition works is that we need to put money in place for a lot of students who cannot make it to colleges. They do pass exams, they want to move on, they want to transit to secondary and to universities, but they don't have a single cent to move into to colleges. And that's why we need to put more funds for bursaries that I see CDF is doing very well on. More money needs to be put into CDF to educate children. Women reps do have affirmative action fund as well, and there's a little bit of bursaries. It's far too little. I would ask this House that in the next budget, consider putting more money for women reps and CDF for bursaries, so that 100% transition is going to be practical, it's going to work. Otherwise, it will end up being a theory. We just put it in the law that everybody moves to secondary school to move into universities, but we have not put money to educate them. The third point is that even these colleges that we are putting up, let's try and get teachers. 100% transition is achievable, but if teachers are not there, colleges are not there, money is not there, then we are talking nonsense. We are not being practical enough. For me, these are the answers to 100% transition as a teacher, as somebody who also knows the shortcomings that we have in the education sector. Education is important for all of us, but it cannot be quality education if we do not have money for students, if we do not have teachers for them, if we do not have enough access to their education. To me, this is very, very important in this particular bill. The final point I want to say is that education does not mean that when you go to the university, you must get a job. There is self-employment. I know it's very difficult for self-employment, but we still need to highlight that it is a key. That is what we are seeing in other foreign countries. They go to school, and I was in class in UK, a master's class, with an old woman. She was over 60, and she was doing masters. When we ask her, why are you going to school so late in life? She says she needs education. Who says she needs a job? She did not think of a job at that time. She simply said she wanted education. I think that taught me that education, when you receive it, or when you get it up to a certain level, you may not be looking for a job after that. You may just want to be well-informed, a person who's well-educated, somebody who wants to be a properly informed individual in a society. So that was the way your mind. You become well-informed. You can be self-employed. You can do something useful. So even if universities may be offering certain courses that are not useful, remember that we still need information on those very areas. I have been a lecturer also at the university, and some of the argument we had during that time was that certain courses must be removed, that they don't need to be there at all because they are not beneficial to anybody. But they were never removed at the end of the day. It was still realized that we still need to learn certain things that are old-fashioned, but are not so new, not modern, but they are necessary because they still open up your mind. And so I want to support this bill because it will address so that we start moving towards it and achieving 100% transition. This, again, is going to support women who drop out of school. I see a lot of women being saved by this bill. They will not just drop out. Even if they drop out, opportunity will be there again to go back to school. Even for those who get married early enough. It will mean that you get married, but you continue going to school. Nobody stops you from going to school. So to me, that's 100% again. Thank you so much, Mheshimiwa, for bringing this bill. It is saving lives. It's making everybody go to school. It's making those disadvantaged able to achieve what they want to achieve, and nobody will ever be at home. Right now in the villages, we see young boys and girls with good grades, a B+, somebody who should go to the university. You see A+, or A. You know, students who should move on. They're in the villages herding cattle. And when you ask them, why are you at home at this time with these good degrees or these good grades, they tell you they have no money, there's no opportunity, and so on. So 100% is still going to address their plight, and a lot of them will be able to go to school. I want to support this bill because it's good for the nation, and that is going to empower everybody in this country to be able to access, be retained, and complete education. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I support.
What did I hear? Did I hear some member shout something? We shall have the Honorable Mohammed Sheikh, member for Wajir South.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much. I can see, I do stand to support this motion, and I can see my colleagues are yelling out time, and I shall obviously stand by that. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. I do support this motion. I do support this motion because it touches the nitty-gritty that is required for our children, for our future generation. And that is where, you know, ideally this motion touches, it is where the tire touches the tarmac, and that is what we are going to do. Article 55 of the Constitution of Kenya clearly spells out that youth should achieve their full potential by, through education and training. And therefore, in line with that, I do see that this motion particularly touches on that aspect of Article 55 of the Constitution of Kenya. This country lacks absolute training, and when I say absolute training, it means that many of our Kenyans, 3/4 of our Kenyans are not educated to the level that we would have expected them to be. Going to primary school and ending up there, going to secondary school and ending up there is not sufficient enough to call ourselves an educated nation. For this nation to be an educated nation, it requires to inculcate efforts that can be able to increase the know-how, the knowledge, and the skills of our society. This country lacks apprenticeships. It requires apprenticeships, people who transition from a lower level of education to a middle level of education so that they can carry the bulk of the practitioners of technical skills. In the 1800s, there used to be what used to be called the journeyman. The journeyman is an individual who is considered to be going out every day for work that may be skilled or may not be skilled. But eventually that transitioned further, and it became to be apprenticeship, where an individual actually comes out with particular skills and knowledge. Those skills are used for their day-to-day, earnings, and that is a plumber, an electrician, a carpenter, individuals who can be able to impart their skills into particular jobs. And these jobs are their daily earnings that helps them, support their families and themselves. 100% transition from primary to secondary school was God-sent decision for this country. That is many children who are missing out from secondary school, or pupils, if I can call them, who are missing out from primary school, who are missing out secondary schools because they did not get a particular grade to reach for the next level of height, which was secondary school, has been abolished or has been stopped. And that was a great thing for this country to have, for our children to have. And therefore, in this particular time, if we get a possibility that that our students from secondary school transition to the next level, and that is to the next level of tertiary education, so that they can get skills, so that they don't become only a journeyman or a journeywoman, if I can add the new term of woman, a journeyman or journeywoman, that end up not getting the right education to be able to have that skills, that mid-level skills. In other parts of the world, there is what we call the white collar, the blue collar workers. The white collar and the blue collar workers particularly means that the white collar are those that have gone to the highest level of education and are actually working in offices and the likes. The blue collar workers are those who are in the mid-level of education and knowledge. And that is people like practitioners who are, say, apprenticeship, who came through apprenticeships. And they become practitioners, mid-level practitioners. And what they do is that they go every day to do works, like as I've mentioned, works like plumbing, electrician, craftsmanship, and the likes. So those are the people that are called the blue-collar workers. But these are very important people, and the largest bulk of modernized institutions or modernized countries, or countries that are heading towards modernization. These bulk are the ones that contribute high to tax revenue. They increase the tax collection in this country. And therefore, they will be increasing, that is what I want to say. And therefore, these are the people that we want to approach and ensure that we have given them another transition level, where they get their secondary certificate, and then from there on, they go into apprenticeships, that is traineeship, and then they go into become blue-collar workers, and from there on, they get to the level of contributing to this country on that. Apprenticeship is done while the trainee is still working, meaning that you have finished your secondary school education, you have gone for an apprenticeship, you may not have succeeded in going to university, but you get skills. You get skills through job training. So a mechanic is trained at the garage. At that garage, a young man is enrolled as an apprentice, taught how to do to fix cars, and then or become a carpenter, and taught how to make doors and beds and stools of this country, who can contribute to their lives and who can contribute to the next generation of our future. And therefore, I do support this, so that the next level, we ensure that our young men and women go to another level of education. I want to say that our old village polytechnics has advanced to TVETs for many of them. Or there are TVETs that are actually working hand in hand at the level of polytechnics. But those ones are the ones that we are saying that we need to support, so that our people can get the opportunity. Every door is open for them to be able to get that. Now, for society to be intellectually well off and to be resilient, they must be educated, and they must go to the next level of education. Primary and secondary is not enough, and therefore we want to see that people get that. But what are the challenges that we have today? If I can just choose a particular one, psychopathological issues that really is common. Mr. Speaker, I do have the time for 10 minutes to talk, and I can see my colleagues are jumping up and about to say that I should be able to be completing early enough. Well, you must sit there and listen, Mr. Speaker. They should sit there and listen. The contributions that are of value to this country. Psychopathology.
The Honorable Sheikh will have
the challenges and the issues and the challenges that are there. The issues that are there. The issues that are there.
The Honorable
I know.
The Honorable Sheikh, just hold on for a minute. The Honorable Shamala, what is out of order?
I just heard to the Honorable Member refer to members of this House, or liken to members who were interjecting as monkeys in the forest. Can he withdraw that statement? Or apologize? Withdraw and apologize.
The Honorable Sheikh, withdraw and apologize.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to say this. Honorable Shamala has got an opportunity to talk in this House, I guess.
Sheikh.
She always looks for an opportunity to speak in this House. She always gets an opportunity whenever I stand up to get an opportunity to interject me and to stand up on that.
The Honorable Sheikh, you're out of order. The Honorable Sheikh, you will withdraw that comment and apologize.
Can I get the exact statement I've said to apologize? Can I get the exact statement?
The Honorable Sheikh, you will not argue with the Speaker. I heard you clearly. You will withdraw.
I do withdraw, Mr. Speaker.
And
Thank
apologize.
I do withdraw and apologize on that.
Very well.
But what I want to clearly say is that Honorable Shamala gets an opportunity whenever I stand up to be able to interject me. So she can continue to interject whenever I stand up. She should not waste my minutes that I want to contribute on this. And she's done that before, and it is in history for
The Honorable
that.
Sheikh, hold on. The Honorable Shamala, what is out of order?
Is continuing to attack me. I do not interject him whenever he speaks. He has insulted members of this House.
Very well,
and
the
I
Honorable
needed to-
Shamala, you have perfectly interjected, and your interjection was correct. And the member has correctly withdrawn and apologized. He will proceed with his delivery.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. To complete my points, psychopathology is the issue that is quite critical, and that is where substance abuse and hopelessness happens in this country because young men do not have the opportunity to carry on. Mr. Speaker, it is important that there is a significant relationship between dropout from school education and suicidal behavior, mental health and depression and hopelessness among the youth, simply because they are not able to complete their education and on that. If we do not act early, support our children and youngsters, then this country is at the peril of young men's destruction and young men's and women's destruction. What I also want to conclude on to is that when members are contributing in this House, there are those that stand up to have an opportunity to contribute by interjecting important debates that members have. And therefore they should learn that there are people who know how to speak, and there are people who can interject their position, and therefore let them learn that position. So continue, Honorable Shamala. Thank you.
Honorable members, it is well. The member for Dagoretti South, what is it?
Mr. Speaker, we all understand that this is a house of debate. And I wanted to know if the member is in order to say that members are out of order to be contributing or even to be interjecting as he's contributing. Because it's not a house of monologues. It is not a house of one individual speaking to others. This is a house of debate. I want to know if the member of parliament is in order, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, the Honorable Sheikh, you must know that this is a house of debate, that interjections, that all that happens here, members are allowed to do that. And that you cannot respond, the Honorable Sheikh. So members' interjections are part of the debate in this House, and they will continue to be so. And if the Honorable Sheikh wishes to have a monologue, he can choose another forum other than this House. But so long as he wants to contribute in this House, he must be ready to have interjections. Members will interject. Honorable members, we have very limited time and we have a lot of interest in this. Kindly allow the Honorable Kingola Macau to make contribution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That was on a light note. I hope the Honorable Sheikh was not serious about that. But however, I think it's important. When we're in this House, we respect each other, and all members are here to be heard and not to be seen. However, Mr. Speaker, I agree. The government must have 100% 100% policy to ensure that all Form 4s transit to secondary school. However, Mr. Speaker, we must ask ourselves what happened. We've had very many policies. Mr. Speaker, the idea of village polytechnics was very ideal, was very noble, because in the past, village polytechnics used to serve anybody from standard 7, standard 8. They used to be absorbed. And Mr. Speaker, in all villages, you could find masons, you could find carpenters, tailors. And Mr. Speaker, there was an even distribution of craftsmanship. Some technicality was happening, Mr. Speaker, which deviated Kenyans from thinking that white-collar jobs was everything. Mr. Speaker, when we have a policy that guides this government, particularly Minister of Education, and the introduction of TVETs in most constituencies, I'll stand here and ask how many sub-constituencies, how many constituencies have had the technical training institutes in this country. Mr. Speaker, yes, I know it is very important to give our children education that will help them get employment, either by self-employment or through the various departments of the government. Mr. Speaker, we have the youth fund, we have the women fund, we have so many funds. Mr. Speaker, we have never adequately addressed the idea of empowering them, even before we give them this cash. We've never embedded entrepreneurship and trained them on how they're going to run their business. Mr. Speaker, I think it's a high time this policy became implemented and be truthful to the implementation to the core. Mr. Speaker, I want to agree with members, and particularly one speaker who spoke of universities engaging certificate courses and diploma courses. Mr. Speaker, long time ago, to go to university used to be a pipe dream, Mr. Speaker. Every child dreamt of going to the university. And Mr. Speaker, today, when I see Nairobi University and other universities offering certificate and diploma courses, Mr. Speaker, it is demoralizing to even those graduates who, when you qualify to go to university, Mr. Speaker, you expect to meet your fellow. It's a house of learning. Now, with the inclusion of these certificate and diploma courses in university, Mr. Speaker, I think it's not a noble cause. We need to leave universities, give degree courses, and promote more training institutes, tertiary institutions, to give certificates and diplomas. So, Mr. Speaker, we can have a transition and have even those students want and have the urge to go to higher learning education of universities. Mr. Speaker, indeed, when I look at how the world over is going, Mr. Speaker, the technology is here with us. And Mr. Speaker, we cannot ignore the fact that ICT is real, and it's about 30% of the world of our business. Mr. Speaker, the more we introduce technical studies, particularly computer-related, Mr. Speaker, we'll be helping so many youth. And we can only start it from, I have seen, we are offering from primary school, secondary school, but Mr. Speaker, if we can make it be competitive. Mr. Speaker, if you go to China, the tiger economies, you find so many school-going pupils and students are the ones who are involved in building of motherboards, watches. And Mr. Speaker, now we know where the tiger economies are. We can also do it in Africa. I know Jubilee had a noble idea of introducing computers to primary schools. But Mr. Speaker, we are not serious. If we were serious, we will see computer libraries working, not just, Mr. Speaker, it would be very noble to have anybody from standard 8, from 4, having an academic certificate based on their talents. Because nowadays, the other day I listened to the CS education saying, you should not hate your child because of bringing you a D in the house. Mr. Speaker, even someone with a D or an E, if we give them education that is based on their talent, we will never have a loser, Mr. Speaker. Everybody will be a winner. So indeed, I agree. Let us have that transition from Form 4, but where are we going? Mr. Speaker, I know the government has had some efforts making secondary school education free. Now I know we have day schools that are almost free. They're only charging lunch. And Mr. Speaker, yes, we may have free education, but where do we leave these people? Mr. Speaker, there's a saying which says, you better have a fool who is not educated than the one who is educated. Mostly, Mr. Speaker, these bad habits that are happening around, our young people chewing miraa, smoking muguka and everything, Mr. Speaker, it's because they become idle. Some of them, as one speaker said here, we have graduates with first class, Mr. Speaker, who have no jobs. And this based on what they, out of their certification, Mr. Speaker, you find someone with a first-class degree in maybe English or Swahili or anthropology, and Mr. Speaker, they are not absorbed in the market. Hence, they get bored. And Mr. Speaker, that's why it's giving rise to such habits. You go in our estates, Mr. Speaker, you find so many idlers. And when we try to speak to them, you find they are university graduates, Mr. Speaker. It is a pity. And I think, and I agree with the members who say we must introduce technical subjects that will empower our children. When they leave school, there will be plenty of employment because they can employ themselves. Mr. Speaker, if you have a course that will help you enhance yourselves in terms of employing yourself, Mr. Speaker, then it's going to help so much and address the issue of unemployment. Mr. Speaker, if this motion goes and finds its place in becoming a bill, Mr. Speaker, I think we should all support it and be truthful to ourselves and make the government indeed make sure that every constituency has a technical training institute to absorb our youths who finish Form 4. Those few remarks I support. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Ogutu Abel, member for Bomachoge, Borabu.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the opportunity also to contribute to this very important motion. As Speaker, I want to take as short time as possible. We are saying as a nation, we have already begun with 100% transition from primary to secondary. I think it's logical that we must also think on how we can ensure 100% transition from secondary to university. But this dream comes with a lot of challenges. Number one, Mr. Speaker, is about the capacity of our universities and other colleges to absorb the students. Currently, the universities are running below their budgets. So as a nation, we must think on how to ensure that there is enough space for the students who have transited to join the universities and the colleges. We also know that a number of colleges, middle-level colleges, all the way from the village, polytechnics, they are ill-equipped. So we must look beyond the number of people who are going to transit to the next level. We must think as a nation how to increase the budget for infrastructure. This is a more serious issue because we know as a nation we're already operating below bar. So the other thing is that is crucial for this transition is about human capacity. We know, for instance, the middle-level colleges, the teacher training colleges, the P1 who used to be trained have been phased out. We are now moving towards diploma teacher colleges. Are we as a nation prepared? Do we have enough human resources to be able to run the diploma courses for the teacher training colleges? So it's a question of trying to put ourselves in a secondary schools get to the time when they want to join the university. We also must think about our policy of funding education. We know we have very, very many options for funding education, but none of these options is adequate enough to support a single child, beginning from help, coming all the way to the bursaries at the constituents and at the county level. We must think about how do we expand the funding? What do we do at the university to ensure that students are not going to be denied access because they do not have funds? So I think, to me, I want to say that this motion prepares us to begin rolling our heads on how best we can ensure that those students who desire to go to university and also to middle-level colleges are not disappointed because as a house, we have not provided the proper legislation. We must think about expansion. We must think about how the transition can also be translated as within the chain in terms of recruiting these people as they finish the colleges, so that we can create more demand for the same education, but also a market for those who proceed beyond the university. Honorable Speaker, I want to say that we have so many Kenyans who are disappointed because they do not have the opportunity to join the university and other colleges. So I'm sure that we are going to think about policies that reduce dropouts, policies that reduce students denying to take certain courses and then opt therefore not to proceed. To me, I think, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the move of this motion, that it is in the right direction to prepare this nation not to be caught unaware when the numbers from Form 4, which now stand at 89%, transit to join the university. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Ogutu, I have seen you have lived by what you are professing, that members should take as little time as possible. That's good of you. We shall now have the Honorable Member for Karachuonyo, the Honorable Kwame Adipo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to comment on this very important motion. Mr. Speaker, I want to start it with the primary level of education. We have challenges in primary schools. If you take, for example, a constituency like mine, the Karachuonyo, I've inherited so many condemned schools which are in pathetic conditions. And sometimes people think that the MP, the current MP, was not quite active enough to ensure that these schools don't reach that level. So may I start, Mr. Speaker, sir, by saying that the inspectors of schools should do their work properly, and if they see a school which is not meeting the standard, they take action at the appropriate time. Mr. Speaker, if this was being done, perhaps I would not be mourning over the condemned schools, which are so many in my area. I only hope that the government will not go to Karachuonyo to say they are closing the schools, because I'm also blaming them for having slept over their job. Now, if you look at the 100% transition, which is really the principle also for primary to secondary, I applaud this. But then there is a problem, a real challenge, that in secondary schools, we are admitted so from because in their homes, poverty is ruling. So if they want to get out of the muddy area of poverty, they must go for what can give them what they need quickly. I also realize that in the formal education, where you get your degree in, say, history, you cannot start your own job, farm. Even if you are to try, certainly you will not go anywhere with it. Mr. Speaker, sir, I wanted to emphasize this and say that I totally support this motion, knowing that it is in the right direction for this our beloved country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity.
The Honorable Mabonga, member for Bumala.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity for also to raise my contribution on this very important motion. This is a very important motion, Mr. Speaker, and it's very timely. And in the interest of time, Mr. Speaker, because I see there's a lot of interest in this, I will try and, as much as I can, to summarize what I have. Mr. Speaker, in this era of unemployment, this is one of the most best solutions we can provide to the society today. You will agree with me, Mr. Speaker, that all of us under the universe, we actually have talents. And most of the talents are destroyed at the developing stage of the young people. And this stage is actually, Mr. Speaker, when a person is just transiting from high school to college. And at times, Mr. Speaker, when you look at actually the percentage that the KCSE candidates, once they're done, those who join to university, Mr. Speaker, when you look at the statistics, they are actually below 20%. Indeed, if you ask the government today through the ministry to give you the statistics of the remaining mass, where they go, they cannot account for them. And this one could be the best of it all. When you go to Finland, I was just trying to make a comparison, Mr. Speaker, you realize that most of this technical approach of skills is done right from the kindergarten all the way to university. So it's very easy for the students and the young people to pick what they want at a very early stage. Mr. Speaker, if indeed that the government will implement through actually this motion, and we urge the Member of Parliament, Honorable Munene, to bring it as a bill, so that we actually enforce this, because most of the risks in business world today is because of the mass that are actually wasted after Form 4. If you come in the village today, you can definitely count people who are going to college or people who are in college. But the majority of the Form 4s who leave schools and they have not qualified to go to university or technical colleges, Mr. Speaker, you will realize that actually there is a lot of risks in between. Mr. Speaker, if you look around, I can assure you with technical provision courses, the person is more productive, just like as the member have actually said. And actually, at the end of the day, I've picked a few boys, taking them to technical colleges. The people who have been looking for jobs at my place every day, Mr. Speaker, you realize that within even a couple of years, or even 1 year, a person becomes an employer. Mr. Speaker, we would like to request even the government to get seriously involved in the vocation training. I'm yet to hear a serious account government who has come up probably with a model vocational training which can supplement the technical courses we have. Actually, if account government could be serious today with even one vocational training in each county, definitely these young boys and girls who are loitering in the village could be somewhere doing something. Whenever you interact with young people, Mr. Speaker, you'll be shocked to realize that most of the young generation actually, they are strangers in their own life. And this is a very important bill, Mr. Speaker, that will enable young people actually to restore hope in their lives. If we can actually work on this to ensure that a wide range of courses are involved in some of this technical or vocational training, Mr. Speaker, you will be surprised to know that every day, and you happen to come from the region I come from, Mr. Speaker, that every day young people are lining in your home to ask for assistance. And at times it's financial assistance. The young people who are below 30 years, if these courses can be introduced in this most vocational training, they will be absorbed, all of them in these courses, and they will be very effective in the society. Mr. Speaker, I will also urge that the bursaries that we are giving, if indeed the scholarship that the government is giving to the technical students who are joining, the supplementary that they are giving, about 30,000, is not enough. This house should come up with at least a way of getting bursary for these young people, so that they transition, 100% transition from the high school to the vocational training or other colleges is not just like what we are seeing in actually primary school to secondary school. Because you realize it's not a matter of actually, Mr. Speaker, the quantity. We want to look at the quality. I would urge even still the county government to seriously engage the NYS, which has a lot of equipment, Mr. Speaker. They're just being wasted, some of them. You pass Taruba along the way, you realize that most of the equipment are just lying there. Is there a way through this motion, Mr. Speaker, the Member of Parliament, to come up with such a actually drastic proposals to ensure that most of these equipments are used to ensure that our young people are equipped and be productive in the society. Because of the interest of time and many interests.
Very brief. I would like to support this motion because personally I am a victim of a system whereby as you finish high school, there are some principals in high schools who hold back your KCSE certificate, basically based on various reasons, maybe school fees, and they deny you actually an opportunity for you to go and venture into other, for example, if you want to go to school, if you want to look for a job, they actually deny you the certificate maybe to proceed and pursue other things. And in support of this motion, I will also suggest that we need to find regulation in which we are going to compel these principals to provide the students with the certificates, or they provide a letter of affirmation that you studied there, and they can forward it actually to the next institution, for example, in tertiary. Because as a representative of young people, each day I receive complaints and requests from young people that my certificate has been held back by certain institution simply because of school fees. We should provide a regulation also that is going to see that we offer quality education and quality infrastructure in this institution, so that when we are training these young men in this institution, they should feel that this is a course that is going to benefit them in the society. Simply because there are so many courses already that were introduced in universities that are not beneficial to the young people, that actually were categorized as the courses that do not fit the job market. And to cure